Hey everybody, welcome to another comic book review. In this video, I'll be talking about Jimmy Corrigan, the Smartest Kid on Earth by Chris Ware. This book is one of my old favorites, and it's one that I have kind of a history with. So, I remember when I was back in high school, right, and I was just kind of first starting to get into comics. And any of the most of the top 10 lists and the different publications and articles that I was looking at that were like, here are the comics that we recommend that every comics fan must read at least once in their life. This was on a lot of them. This book was on a lot of those lists and in a lot of those articles and publications. So, I'm still in I was in maybe my freshman or sophomore year of high school, right? And I hadn't read a whole lot of comics beforehand. I had read some, but not a whole lot. But I was told that this is one to check out. So I went to my local library, I picked up a copy of this, and I read through like less than a quarter of it before deciding that I didn't get it. I didn't understand any of it. And so I put the book down and I gave up. And then, I started seeing reviews of the book from authors and like artists, both in comics and in prose, that I'm a pretty big fan of, saying how this book really affected them and made them think differently about comics and how it's a must read. So I was like, okay, maybe I'm missing something. So I went back and I read a little further. And then again, I just didn't get it. So I put it down, I quit. And then for some unknown reason, I picked it up a third time and I read through it again and I was like, you know what? I don't care if I don't understand any of it. I'm sticking it out to the end. And I did. And by the time the end rolled around, my mind had been officially blown. This book, knocked me the heck out when I finally completed it start to finish. And it's such a journey of a book. Getting through it is like a lot of the time you don't know what's happening, which is why the first couple times I tried to read it, I didn't get it. But now I figured this book is one of my all-time favorites now. So it's been years since I've read it the last time. So I figured I have my own copy. Why not go back and read it again, see if it still holds up? And for the most part, it totally does. This is a beautiful, beautiful book. It tells the story of a man in his early to mid 30s named Jimmy Corrigan. And he is very sad, very lonely, doesn't have a friend at all. His mother is very overbearing and he can never get a break from her. And he doesn't know who his dad is. So he's working in his office one day and he receives a letter at his desk from a man claiming to be his dad. And the letter basically says, hey, I bought you a plane ticket. I can have you fly out here and come and visit me. And Jimmy reluctantly does so. In the meantime, though, and this is, I think, what tripped me up the first couple times reading through this book, a lot of the things that happen don't make any sense at first until you get to like the end of the book and you start realizing what the book is actually about. There are a ton of dream sequences throughout this thing. This book has a very, very large amount of dream sequences. And that was something I was totally not expecting. This book spends a lot of time in the minds of our characters. You get to see like what they're thinking, and you get entire scenarios that play out that you realize, oh, those are just thoughts that they're having in their head. They're not real. They're not actually happening. And so as I was catching on to that, I was just starting to catch on to that whenever I read through this the first time, the whole way through. And then it totally switches perspectives of who our lead character is. It goes back into like the mid 1800s, and it follows another kid also named Jimmy Corrigan, who happens to be the grandpa of the Jimmy Corrigan that we were following before, earlier on in the story. And then the story just jumps back and forth between um, the main Jimmy Corrigan and the grandpa. Um, and you learn some stuff about the grandpa, how he never knew his mom, his dad was abusive, and he kind of grew up also not having any friends. So he and the main Jimmy Corrigan of the story are both very, very similar in a lot of ways. And ultimately, this is a book about um, not only just father-son relationships, but also just family in general. It's a book about family relationships. It's a book about anxieties and insecurities and things that um, lots and lots of people deal with. And specifically, a lot of those anxieties in this book revolve around family. So this book has a really unique take on kind of bridging the gap between generations and um, kind of finding yourself in ways that you never thought you would, and kind of trying to figure out um, a way to kind of gain perspective into your relatives' lives, your ancestors' lives, and just how uncomfortable and even scary that can be sometimes. Um, this is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful book. And it's really, really grown on me over the years. Like I said, the first couple times I tried to read it, I couldn't even get halfway through. Now I consider it one of my all-time favorites. One thing I would like to point out about this book is, I'm sure you've noticed the art style is um, almost like, it's almost, I don't want to say bland because it is interesting, but it's like very drab, and you really have to kind of get used to it. Like I know I did after like when I was first reading it. That was another thing that I was like, why are people raving about this book? Like the art style is so simple and there's nothing really exquisite about it at face value. And that's when I realized um that the simplicity of the art style really lends itself to such a complex story. This book, I read a quote once about this book that it's an exercise in the patience of the reader. And I could not agree more, because whenever you get through this book, it hits you like a punch in the gut. There's like a reveal at the end that just ties everything together so nicely. And it's like, it's beautiful. Um, I think this book really captures the kind of the scary aspects of the unknown and not knowing what could happen in certain situations, especially meeting new people. The book deals a lot with social anxiety, and um, a lot of the characters in this book, this is another thing I absolutely love about this book. A lot of the characters in this book feel like people that I know. Like um, Jimmy reminds me of people I know. Jimmy's dad reminds me of someone I know. Like all the characters in this book feel real, and it's through Chris Ware's writing that you get that. And I think the art style, the simplicity of the art style, kind of lends itself to making these characters feel even more real, because it's done in um, such a simple way. I love this book. I think it's beautiful. I think its use of panels, its page structure, the way it uses panels and very small lettering, is genius. There are Sometimes you'll get little arrows in this book that'll kind of guide you along to which panels to follow, because this does not follow a traditional sequential order that most comics do in a lot of aspects. This book has like little arrows at some points that'll guide you which panel you're supposed to read next, because the panel layout can get confusing. But honestly, if you're willing to put in the effort to read this book, I 100% wholeheartedly recommend it. I think it's beautiful. I think it's a masterpiece. Yeah, there's a reason that this book has kind of stood the test of time, and why it still remains one of my all-time favorite comics. I love Jimmy Corrigan. Strongly recommend checking this one out if you're cool with like not understanding everything at first. If you're cool with just sticking with it to the very end and just pushing through it, even if you might not get everything right away. This is a book that rewards patience for sure. Definitely recommend this one. Thank you as always for watching, and look forward to more new videos in the future. Have a great day.